Alright, folks, we've got another big storm system heading straight for the US over the next few days. And yes, this one's going to bring more significant severe weather to several parts of the country, damaging winds, large to very large hail, and even the potential for a few tornadoes. But that's not all. Once we head into next week, we've got a really strange weather pattern setting up, and I'll break it all down for you in today's forecast. So let's jump into what's coming over the next 7 days. We'll start off by taking a look at what's happening across the country right now. Over the past 72 hours, we've already seen a ton of severe weather. We had 2 strong lines of thunderstorms yesterday roll through Texas and up through the Mississippi River Valley, and they brought damaging winds, large hail, and even a few tornadoes that stretched all the way from Texas up into Illinois and Indiana. The good news is that this activity has been weakening over the last several hours, and I'm not really expecting it to re-intensify much today. So, please take 2 seconds to hit the subscribe button, like the video, and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. That said, we've still got new storms expected to pop up this afternoon and evening. Areas from the Ohio Valley and the Northeast down into the Southern Plains could definitely see more severe storms firing up. Then, as we go into tomorrow, we're basically looking at almost the exact same areas being at risk again. And by the time we get into Saturday, we could even see some severe weather make its way to the East Coast. Definitely something I'll be watching closely. Now, over the last 48 hours alone, we've had some pretty intense events. Tuesday, for example, brought one of the more significant wind events we've seen all year, with over 600 wind reports from Missouri all the way up into the Northeast. The Ohio Valley in particular got slammed, especially Indiana, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. On the old derecho classification scale, this would have probably qualified as 1, but we just didn't quite hit the threshold of 75 plus mph wind reports to officially make the cut. Still, we saw a very strong mesoscale convective system roll through, and it knocked out power to over 500,000 customers in Pennsylvania alone. We also had a few confirmed tornadoes back in Missouri on Tuesday, and then yesterday we got 4 tornado reports, including 1 in Illinois. There were also 3 land spout reports over near Leach, Texas. But overall, yesterday was a pretty average day for severe weather, some hail, some wind. That 10% hatched tornado risk? It didn't really pan out, because those early morning storms were just too strong and disrupted any chance of discrete supercells forming later in the day. Now, let's shift gears and talk about what's coming over the next few days. Starting with today, which I'm calling Trampolines in the Trees Thursday, we've got 2 areas under a slight risk for severe weather. One is up near Lake Erie and stretches into the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. The other's in the Southern Plains into the Deep South. Both of these regions are likely to see at least a round or 2 of storms this afternoon and evening. Damaging winds are the main concern, but large hail is also on the table. I wouldn't rule out some 2 to 2.5 inch hail, especially back in Oklahoma and Texas. Originally, we did have a hatched hail area in yesterday's outlook, but that's been removed. Even so, I still think there's a shot at some very large hail if we can get discrete storms to fire up later today. Tornado risk? It's pretty low overall. However, the threat has shifted back over to Ohio, Kentucky, a sliver of Tennessee, West Virginia, and even parts of Pennsylvania. I think there's definitely a chance we see 1 or 2 tornadoes this afternoon in those areas. Looking ahead to Friday, we've got a big area we're watching for more isolated to widely scattered severe weather. This stretches from New York all the way back into the Southern Plains. More damaging winds, large hail, and even an isolated tornado are possible. The wind threat looks strongest from Lake Erie down into Texas, and I do expect a hatched hail area to be reintroduced in Texas in future updates. We could be talking hail the size of apples near places like Austin or San Antonio. Right now, there's no official tornado risk for Friday, which honestly is a nice change. We haven't had a tornado-free day in over a week. That said, I still think there's a slim chance for an isolated tornado in Texas if we get a storm along an outflow boundary with just enough wind shear. As for today's tornado threat, it's going to ramp up mainly this afternoon. I'm watching areas like Ohio and Pennsylvania closely, especially from 3 to 7 p.m. Some of our significant tornado parameter values are showing a 3 or 4 in northwest Pennsylvania, which definitely points to an elevated chance. Even parts of the deep south have low values, but I think the storm mode down there isn't quite right for tornadoes today. Still, I wouldn't rule out a quick spin up in Tennessee or Kentucky. Timing-wise, we'll have some scattered showers and storms around this morning. By lunchtime, storms should be forming in southern Indiana and Kentucky with damaging winds and maybe some large hail. But the main tornado risk probably won't kick in until mid to late afternoon. Again, eastern Ohio and western Pennsylvania are the biggest areas of concern. By this evening, around 6 to 7 p.m., those storms will be moving through Pennsylvania, eastern Ohio, and West Virginia. After that, we might still have some leftover storms trailing behind, but they'll likely only bring isolated hail or wind. Now, let's look at Friday again. Things start off a little quieter in the morning, but by afternoon, I expect another line of storms to develop near the Mississippi River Valley, fueled by whatever's left of our storms from the southern plains. That line could bring damaging winds and hail into the Ohio and Tennessee valleys and even back into Dixie Alley. Later Friday, we'll also have some severe storms in the northeast, mainly across western New York, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia. That's going to be more of a wind threat, especially around the Buffalo area between 7 and 8 p.m. I don't think the storms will make it far into eastern New York or eastern Pennsylvania. If you're out that way, expect some showers or isolated storms, but nothing major. The severe weather potential today in the southern plains is pretty interesting. Louisiana could see pop-up storms with large hail and wind this afternoon, and by late today into the evening, we might get some supercells developing south of Dallas-Fort Worth, maybe near Waco or into northern Mexico. Hail could be big with those, but tornado risk stays very low. Then late tonight, after midnight, we could see a mesoscale convective system try to develop in southwestern Oklahoma and North Texas. If that gets going, we're looking at damaging winds, large hail, and again, a very low tornado risk. Nothing's officially outlined for tornadoes right now, but if this system is more organized than models are showing, that could change. As that system moves east Friday, it'll bring more damaging winds and maybe a low-end tornado threat to the Mississippi River Valley. It's going to be a stormy setup Friday across the southern plains and Gulf Coast. Lots of supercells are possible, but because we're lacking strong wind shear, tornado chances stay low, though not zero. I'll be watching Texas and southwestern Louisiana closely, and after all of that, things start getting weird. We're heading into a very unusual weather pattern next week. By Monday, we'll have what's called an omega block. That's when you've got two low-pressure systems on either side of a high, forming a pattern that looks like the Greek letter omega. It'll bring cooler weather and rain to the East Coast, and maybe spark some severe weather in the high plains early next week. If the trough over the Rockies ejects eastward, we could see more severe weather, maybe even tornadoes by Tuesday or Wednesday in the central and southern plains. But overall, by the end of next week and into the weekend, it looks like things could finally calm down a bit. That Omega block could suppress widespread storm development, at least temporarily. So for now, this week's storms will wrap up with that low-pressure system heading into Canada. We may see a bit more isolated severe weather Saturday in the Ohio Valley and East Coast, which I'll update you on in tomorrow's video. Sunday through Tuesday, that lingering system could spin up some more rain along the East Coast and maybe a bit of severe weather in the southern plains again. After that, the setup gets messy with mostly mesoscale-driven storms, similar to what we saw earlier this week in Texas, where even a few big tornadoes popped off in West Texas. So stick with the channel, stay weather aware, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit subscribe and tap that bell icon so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.